Hello, and welcome to Rory's Brainworks, where we get creative and see if it works. Today, we'll be working with a rope bra and a rope dress. Not the normal rope dress you would imagine like a Hishi Karada, but kind of like a rope netting dress. Marie is currently wearing it because I had already done it not long ago on TikTok and posted it on Instagram, and it's like, you know what? Let's do this one. It had some positive feedback, so let's look deeper into it. I also wanted to show you something important when creating something like this, and that's outlines. How to outline the rig so you have a frame of reference of where you want to go before you color it in, shade it in, make it the beautiful piece of art that it is. First, we must bring up safe, sane, consensual safety. Be sure to have some safety shears with you at all times. You can always get new rope. You can't get a new life. And consensual. Marie and I are both consenting adults. Communication is key. Now, before we drop into that tutorial, we must first thank my sponsor, Knothead Nylon.
Knothead Nylon is the destination for all your premium nylon rope bondage needs. Easy to clean, water resistant, up to 1,100 pounds of weight load, and in a wide array of beautiful, vibrant colors, Knothead Nylon will slake your rope desires. At checkout, put in discount code RORY10 for 10% off.
Alright, let's talk about shape. Now, what we have the obvious bra shape that comes around. You have the underwire, underbust part of it, and these areas that give you the angle. There are many different ways to get this shape, and there's many ways to fill in these areas that I have right here. These are the ones that I like, the ones I prefer, which I feel sometimes is the easier way of going about it. Let's look at this a little bit more. So we have the classic V shape, sideways V shape that you see in a lot of top swimwear, which is what we're working with here. Now, it does go behind and then come from underneath the crotch up this way. And then I connect these two parts together, the underwire part of it and the side of it. I wanted this part for looks, but something equally important was this line right here, this line that goes around the waist that these other ropes are attached to. That will play an important part, especially for making the netting. So I got a bunch of different kinds of yellow rope, so I can do this full Belle outfit. I doubt you can, so you just pick and choose based off of how many ropes you have, how you want to do it, whether or not you want to do the top or whether or not you want to do the netted dress. I'm gonna make the whole thing anyway. So I grabbed the lightest of my yellow ropes, which is what I'm gonna use to create the outline of what I'm doing. And I'm gonna start off by doing a girth hitch. So take the bite of the rope, the middle of the rope, and we're going to go around that middle area. This is basically going to be that underwire for our rope bra or rope top, however you want to describe it. So we're going to tighten that down in the back. Marie, how is that pressure? Awesome. So we have the girth hitch right here, which brought the ropes through it, and then we're going to go up, putting opposing forces up and over the shoulder. And what I'm actually going to do is going to seem a little bit odd at first, but I'm not really going to connect this into anything. What's going to happen is that this rope is going to go down, up and over the crotch. It's going to be suppressed by the rope that's coming up. We're going to do a cow hitch, and then it's going to go back down, which is going to lock this in place right here. So at this point in time, this right here is going to be slightly awkward because it will be unbound. So I'm coming from beneath the crotch here, from around the crotch, and we're going to do a cow hitch. So we're going to go over both of these actually. We're going to go over this, we're going to go over and around this one. So we went over, around, and then we're going to cross over the top of it right here. And what we're going to do is send the rope over and then through. Send the ends of this rope over and then through. So what we're going to do at this point, we're going to send the tails of the rope underneath this again, over and then through this area. I'll grab my tails. I'm going to put them over this one, but under this one, following in opposite of what we just did. So now the tails are over and then under, we're going to cross over and then through this loop. Put those tails through. There you go, you got that classic cow hitch style. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the area that first went through the crotch and we're going to tighten it. So we're going to pull up from that area, tighten up. Marie, how is that feeling on your nethers? Alright. Well, if you don't have plastic nethers, what you really don't want to go over some of these sensitive areas. You actually want to be to the sides of them. I mean, however, risk aware if that is what you want to do. If that's what your model asks for, to go over sensitive areas, and you're okay with your rope going over those sensitive areas, then you certainly may. Risk aware consensual kink, R-A-C-K, rack. You guys are aware of the risks inherent in such a thing. You are responsible adults. Just gonna make sure my ropes are straight here. We have now locked this underwire and this V shape, which is gonna be the primary part of our rope or top. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna send this back down through the crotch as well, and back up the other side. So coming back up from the crotch, this is the situation we've run into. These things are all sorts of out of place and slightly a little bit loose, and that's what we're going to take care of. Now, looking at this right now, you can see that this rope is coming down and is going over and then underneath, which means that this one right here is suppressed. It's depressed. It's being depressed and pushed down. And what do we do to friends who are depressed? We uplift them. In order to uplift it, we go underneath to lift it up. So we're going to go under, over, under, over, under. I just remembered now that this should be below this one right here. So I'm going to go backwards a little bit, undo that cow hitch, and meet up with you in the back in a second. You know, when there's a lot of steps, sometimes you forget some of the steps. That's a whole big part of it, isn't it? That's why we're doing this. I'm letting you know that it's okay to make small mistakes like that. That little mistake is relatively inconsequential compared to the other things, the other mistakes you can do with any kind of bondage. Keep that in mind. That one's more of just like a small design mistake. There are many other far more dire mistakes you can make. I mean, don't let that scare you as well, but still. And we're back. This is now under this area right here, as it should have been originally. So, back to our depressed friend, we're gonna uplift them, and then just cycle around. Over, under, over, under. We can probably wrap around again if we would like to, or at this point, we would wrap around this area. I'm actually going to do a bit of katana weaving there. I like the way it looks. Not all the time, but some of the time. Which is basically weaving in and out of this. I don't know the actual name of the weaving pattern. I have always just affectionately called it katana weaving. When you get to the point that you're running out, let me get in closer. So once we're running out right there, you can see what I'm going to do is wrap around one more time and leave this little hole open right here. We're going to make our way through that, push up from the bottom, tighten up nice and good. Nylon needs a little bit extra because it's got that sweet, sweet friction to it. That should be enough for that. Mostly because all the friction, the circular friction that we got going on up here is more than enough to keep this pulled down, not to mention, you know, the katana weaving going on right here. Small little bullet like that, super easy. And at that point, we have our frame. Frame is constructed. Now we begin the decorative part of it. I got a darker yellow right here. That's going to contrast on the light yellow a little bit. That way you can tell the difference between the different ropes, which adds a little bit of flair to it. We're actually going to utilize a little bit of cobra knotting, and we have used cobra knots in the past. What Marie said. I'll have a link in the description down below to get to that cobra harness. Now what we're going to do is that we're going to pull through these tails and we're going to find the middle of our rope. Because what we're going to do is we're going to tie off in the back here, and then we're going to come around and do separate ties going up and down around it, and then come back down this way. So we need both the tails. One tail working this way, one tail working this way, and then we'll get right here, go down. So I have the bite of my rope in the middle right in there, underneath these two lengths of rope, and I want these to go this way and underneath the armpits. However, this is loose. We're going to secure it to these two right here, utilizing the cobra knot. So I'm going to make a little L right there. This one is going to depress it, go beneath these, and through the circle here. Tighten that a little bit. Now the rope that is being depressed is going to go over now, and this one will do the job that this one just did. So since it's being depressed, we're going to make another L, down L, backwards L. This one's going to go over it, beneath, and through this hole right here. Tighten that up, and now this rope is secured to these areas right here, and both lengths of these ropes are ready to go around. See how helpful that little cobra knot is? I love it. And you know, speaking of comfortable knots that I love, the cow hitch. There are two ways to do a cow hitch. One of which is to go over, underneath, on top of itself, underneath, over and through. You'll get the pattern eventually. The other way is to start with it being underneath, have it go over, go underneath itself, and do that pattern. Now for this sort of thing, the over pattern is the one that works the best. So we're gonna do that. Now, if you're wondering, well, I need practice with the other way. Worry not, my friend, because that's what we're gonna be using for the netting on the dress, is we're going to be using the opposite way of the cow hitch. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over and underneath this bad boy. Now to make this much easier, it's always good to have the tail in your hand as well. And what this is going to do is it's going to go over, and then you do the opposite of what's just happening. So over, around, under, over. So what we got to do is go backwards. So we're going to go under, around, and through. Under. So we went under, we're going to go over, and then through this area right here. Tighten that up a little bit. So the great thing about the hitch is that the hitch can move up and down, but it will not self tighten or loosen once you have it tightened. So basically you follow where the knot should be. We're gonna take this knot, follow it through, pull around, keep pulling, straighten it out. There we go. Now we're gonna go down, follow this, keeping it straight at this angle. We're gonna go down, do the same thing. Gonna go over, gonna cross over and down. So we've come down, gone over, around, crossed over ourselves, gone beneath. Now we're gonna go over and through. So at this point, what you wanna do, after we have secured this one down here, we're just going to follow the rope. It wants us to go back up here. So we will continue this pattern. We'll do another one of these. It'll have us come back down. We'll do another one of these, come back up. What you want to be aware of is how tight you're making these on the top. The cow hitches up top are going to dictate the shape of this V coming down. So if you pull it too tight, it's going to be quite meaningless and it's just going to go over the nipple, which you don't want. It'll be uncomfortable. So you want to make sure that it's tight, it's secured, but it's not too tight to where it pulls the top down and makes it uncomfortable for your model. So I'm going to increase time and I'm just going to do some cow hitches back and forth creating this bra, and I'll show you the after. So you can clearly see the cow hitch patterns going up and down it right now. It's very captivating. It's very beautiful. It doesn't cover a lot, which I guess in a way makes it more of a lingerie top than anything else. What we're going to do is focus on this ending area right here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do a half hitch. So I'm going to stick a loop down there and I'm going to put my rope through that. Tighten that up. There we go. And it keeps in line with the aesthetic we're doing right here. This will be important later, but for the most part, let's focus on the other side. Yes, we got the half hitches. So on the top, I had six cow hitches going up, and then 5 going down on the bottom on that underwire, and then the half hitches. So technically 6 going down the V and 5 and a half on the underwire there. Now you will notice that this underwire should be slightly looser than the rest of everything else, because you will be putting a lot of tension by going beneath it so many times. 20 times, in fact, that it will start to pull it forward and thus putting space between you and the underwire, which does cause a small amount of discomfort if it's not a little bit loose to start out with. Sometimes that it for the most part does mean a little bit more vibrant rope kisses when you take it off. But we're gonna do a bit of cobra knotting, because we cobra knot to about right here where we hit the waist, and so we'll cobra knot with these bad boys until we get about right here, and then we'll go around the waist. So I'm just gonna start cobra knotting. Always make sure the one that's doing the L is the one that's being suppressed immediately beforehand. This one is being suppressed, so that becomes the L. And then you just kind of trade off. This one's being suppressed, so it does the front L. I think we do just a little bit more. Now you don't want to do it so tight to where you lose the shape of the 4 ropes underneath it. Now that's something I just did, so I'm gonna loosen that up ever so slightly. There we go. One more. Perfect. I'm going to wrap this around to the backside. Now on this backside, I'm actually just going to cobra down it because it is insanely secure. So that's what I'm going to do, and it uses up the rest of my ropes. We'll speed up time for that. So as you can see, just cobra it knotted down the back of it because it's so handy to just make a nice design that's adding additional structure to the rig. Now when it comes to the end of it, let me show you what I did here. I had a point where one of the ropes was much longer than the other. So this rope right here came down, hung out with the other 4 ropes, where this one wrapped around it twice. And then when it came back around the second time around, it went through these 4 right here, made a hole through it, and came out where it had first started wrapping around. Tighten that by pushing up and down, and then let it sit. Now this waist part right here is going to be one of the more important parts of this whole netting process.
this is the necessary catalyst to begin doing the netting weave. It is essentially the opposite of the cow hitch we were doing on the top part. So what we're gonna do is do a clove hitch on this side and work our way around. So we will wrap around once. We will then cross over ourselves and wrap through. And then we will go through this little X right here and tighten like the dickens. Clove hitches. Now, why didn't we do that on this side? Well, clove hitches are still relatively movable, relatively mobile. So if we're gonna be going this way, we need something to stop it, which is the spine right here. So what we will end up doing is feeding the rope through and then be giving the netting weave. So this netting weave is very easy, but relatively laborious at first because we have the full length of our rope to weave through, and as we continue going around, it becomes easier and easier as we get to the ends of our tail. Now, with a cow hitch, we have to decide whether going over or underneath. Now, with the top ones, we went over. So, since we're doing the opposite, we're gonna go under. We're gonna go underneath it, feed it through. So, we went underneath, around, and then we're gonna go underneath ourselves. It's okay if you got some looseness over here, that is very well expected. So, now we just do the opposite of what we did over here. So, moving back, we're gonna go over and around and under and over top of ourselves. So I went over, and we're gonna feed that through. Long, laborious process, but it's very nice to do. And that's what we're looking for. We have this pretzel shape, and if we bring these together, you can see the cow hitch is mirroring the opposite on the other side, but we have opened it up, and that's the design we're looking for. It's creating this pretty aesthetic netting. Before we move on to the next area, we're going to give ourselves a little bit of looseness, kind of like this. We want to create a little loop, because that loop is going to be important later for the next netting, because we're going to do this, but right here. Like brickwork, we're going to do opposites. You can go down diagonally. Yeah, you'll see in a second. So let me do this one, we'll talk about it. We went under, over, and around, and then we will go beneath ourselves, keeping this little loop here. Try to be consistent with your loops as this one on this side, this one with this one. Try to be consistent with your loops as well. Try and match the loops together so that they're the same length. So we went under, around, over, and under ourselves again. Now we do the opposite, go backwards, which means we have to go over. And there we go. That second one is made up, and then you just kind of continue going around. Create a loop that's similar to the one that we just came from, and continue the process. I'm gonna speed up time a little bit, and I'll meet up with you guys in just a few seconds. So I've done a few of the layers already, and you will notice that the loopies, the original loopies, which is this one right here, attached to the wire right here, the one we had sent across the waist, these little loopies became the next base for our inside out cow hitches, and so on and so forth, you know, creating this beautiful netting structure. Now, I run out of room on this one, so I'm going to attach another rope to it. Easiest thing to do with that is we're gonna go under ourselves and make a little loopy, and then go through that. We're gonna tighten a little bit from this side, but most of our tighten a little bit, is gonna be pulling it down, because we wanna keep as much room as possible. You know, create just a little nub right here. I might even redo that. Loosen a little bit more on that side, pull down on this side. Now, if you are using nylon is very supple, has a very high friction, so it is easy for things to slip. So when you're pulling, you gotta make sure you pull that baby hard. And what we're going to do is attach the end of our other rope, which I should have prepared, but didn't, and we will attach a clove hitch to that. So we'll go around, cross over ourselves, go through, and then we're gonna come through this loopy area right here, going up that way. We'll pull from this end, and we'll pull it with the base of the tail from the last rope and the new tail of this rope. We're basically closing that clove hitch around it. There we go. It's gonna make this loopy here look a little bit ugly, but that's okay. When you're looking at the grander scheme of the tie, the eye will take a second to catch that. So begin weaving the process again. I'm gonna go ahead and do this new rope around it, and I'm gonna do the same colored rope, this one, another one on that one as well. We'll get to the finished product. I'll talk a little about a few things. So I can then begin weaving again. And one of the things I did observe while weaving is that once you have created this first loop and are going this way, you no longer have to worry about this coming undone. That is already set in stone and will not come undone, will not loosen. So as soon as you go around and through this way for the first part of that cow hitch, the loop you've made here, that's going to be set until you put this around and adjust it a little bit. So once you've made that loop, you don't have to worry about being like, oh, I need to continually hold pressure here while I put this other loop around. No, that's good. That'll stay. just be aware of the shape you're making. Try not to tighten it too much, because the looser you make the rings, the looser it's gonna be. Difficult without having a frame to create the extravagant gown that Belle wears in Beauty and the Beast, which is what this rig is based off of. I would need a frame, so I'm mostly just using Marie's frame, which kind of turns it more into a pencil skirt, but hey, pencil skirts are awesome too. So I'm gonna continue with this rope going around, and then I'm gonna add a third rope, which is the same color, and go around again. I'll meet you there in a few seconds. And there we have it. The rope dress and the top. Combined together, you just have a fun aesthetic rig. Something important to note about the netting, which could take a long time to undo. However, if you go to the back and undo this waist wire, it will fall down and then you can undo it from there. Super easy, actually. That's one of those Rory fun facts. So saith the Rory.
Well, hey, I hope you had a wonderful time doing that tutorial, as I did teaching it to you. Marie decided that she was going to grab my wallet and try to rent out a ballroom and have an extravagant ball, as she is the belle of it, but I thwarted her. Now she is pouting in the corner, giving me rude gestures. It's to be expected, especially at this point. Now we must thank my other wonderful sponsors today, the lovely people over at Patreon. That's patreon.com/Rory's Brainworks, just like this YouTube channel. They are my rope vanguard, my colonizers of dreams, and without them, these rope endeavors would be way harder to accomplish. Thank you for spending your time with me. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to this madness, and comment down below what kind of rope bondage things you would like me to teach you. As always, I'm Rory. This is my brain. I'm fairly certain it works. Be safe and go create some art.